Like, I feel like we're at a point in this Trey Hendrickson thing that it's like, okay, so like the Bengals are very unserious about keeping Trey Hendrickson. So just send him to a team that does want to have him, and let's go ahead and pay him with the cap that we have. We could probably restructure to open some stuff up and be able to afford bringing him in. And so that's kind of where I am with this thing. If you haven't heard the latest update, this is from Trey Hendrickson, and this is earlier today. Trey Hendrickson gave a statement to ESPN, said, quote, "No communication has taken place between my camp and the organization post-draft. The offers prior to the draft did not reflect the vision we shared and were promised last offseason if I contributed to play at a high level, or if I continued to play at a high level, excuse me. Coaches are aware of these past conversations rather than using collaboration to get us to a point to bring me home to the team. They, and it's capitalized, they are no longer communicating. I've been eagerly awaiting a resolution on this situation, but that's hard to do when there's no discussion and an evident lack of interest in reaching mutual goals." So what we're looking at here, Trey Hendrickson, the communication's still not there between Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals. So I'm just at a point where it makes no sense for the Bengals to keep him, right? So it makes all the sense for us to go get him. And I thought the tweet that I just saw from Destin Adams was really well put, where he says if the Colts trade for Hendrickson and pay him, they would have Henderson, Latu, and Tuamalo or Tuamalu. I'm gonna have to go figure out how to say his name, but JTT. Right, with Latu and Henderson locked up for the foreseeable future. Edge would go from a massive question mark to having a stable foundation with fantastic upside. And you're not only doing that at the edge position if you traded for Henderson. Like, you think about what we need to do. Like, people are going to talk about the obvious need to have depth at linebacker, especially with Zaire Franklin having an ankle surgery. I believe it was an ankle surgery, right? That we're just finding out about now with that. And what are you going to get from JC, right? And then what else do you have behind that? We like Segan Luby, but Cameron McGrone, if he ends up having to step on the field, do you feel confident with that, right? So I understand the position where, and I could see a world where the Colts still go get a veteran linebacker, somebody to come in and fill a spot. Whether that's going to end up being, somebody they only want to rely on him for special teams, I would understand that. But also getting somebody in again to fill that space. What if Zaire he comes in training camp right after this surgery and tweaks the injury, right, or tweaks and has to continue to rehab, and then he's not ready for the season? Then what do we do? So I understand that question mark. I feel like that's really the question mark at this point on the team. When you think about now, depth at tight end looks a lot better when you have a very capable starter that you believe in, and we all think that Tyler Warren's going to be that guy, right? And so the depth behind him at tight end, I like. Depth at running back was a question mark. That's good. Depth in the secondary. It looks incredible right now. You want to go get maybe another safety to fill in back there, but you at least have guys in the secondary in the backup of the secondary that have had to have starting experience in their career and will be able to do that. Plus, getting new coaching, I think, does matter as well. Louis Rumo coming in that secondary, I think, is going to be good. So, man, you throw in an edge, right? You throw in Hendrickson to what we have. We already have Ebicom. We already have Quiddy Pay. And do one of those guys get moved? I think that's definitely quite. And during the conversations we've had here about Trey Hendrickson, that's been what we brought up. I think one time was that we definitely talked about Quiddy Pay being a piece that gets traded for Trey Hendrickson. I'm pretty sure we also mentioned, hey, what if you were able to get rid of Ebicom instead of cutting him, right? When we thought he might get cut to save, I believe, like $8.5 million or whatever, instead of doing that, just trade him. Thought that would have been a viable option. It still could be, and so what gets moved? But if you don't give up any current personnel, then you look at our depth at defensive end. If you were to add Trey Hendrickson, and then you're all of a sudden you're looking at Henderson, Latu, Pay, Ebicom, JTT, Taekwon Lewis, a room of 6 guys, where Taekwon Lewis being the 6 is nuts, right? Taekwon Lewis being your 2 is okay. Like, if he's on the field, I'm okay with it, right? Especially in a new defense could be good for him. But him as a 6 is ridiculous. So um, just thinking of that world, thinking of a world where that's what we're rolling out every Sunday at defensive end. And even if you get an injury or two and having the depth behind that, it would just be, there's so much that goes into it. As I sit here and I look and see that you're mentioning Pratt, boy, if you get Pratt and Hendrickson, like that's the ideal situation right there. Right. And what's up, brother? Appreciate you coming by. Hope you've been doing all right. But yeah, getting Pratt and Henderson would be ridiculous. Fill 2 needs, give 2 rooms, great veterans that can come in and have an impact right away. Like, holy cow! I already feel good about the defense going into this year, especially from where we've been. We're going to be much more aggressive. I can't wait to watch it happen, which is going to be great. So I'm really excited about the defense. And then if you add in Pratt, like we were just talking about Hendrickson, so that's what I have on my mind. But now it's like, man, you throw in Pratt and Hendrickson, like, what does that cost you? Where do you find the money? What contracts are getting moved around and restructured for you to really be able to do that is going to be the question there. But getting those 2 would be crazy. Getting those 2 both on the defensive line would be incredible, or on the defense would be incredible. Man, just constant edge pressure with a more aggressive secondary. You add Charvarius Ward to cover the best wide receiver on a team, and then you add Cam Bynum to be over the top, and somebody who's a ball hawk. Like, bro, this defense is going to be crazy. Like, I know I'm probably just being an optimistic homer and whatever, but with the change in what the defense is going to do, the personnel we're going to be rolling out, the fact that Lou Anarumo isn't going to rotate his defense just to rotate his defense. Like, the best guys are going to play a lot of the time. Latu's probably going to be on the field more, right? And like, they're dogs on that defense. And it will be interesting to see I wanted to see how the defensive rotations on the defensive line change from one coordinator to the next. That's maybe my biggest question is, does he continue to rotate because he has the guys, or does he pick his guys who, these are the guys that I want in most situations, right? And I guess specifically for this conversation, pass rushing situations, which guys does he want the most? Because under Gus Bradley, that always changed. And I do think there's an element of guys needing to be able to find a rhythm, and needing to be on the field to find a rhythm, right? Offensive linemen are playing the chess game all game long against these defensive ends, and we make it easier in my opinion, you make it easier on a tackle when you're changing your defensive lineman, the people that he's seeing, because it's different. All of a sudden, the moves reset, and now the chess game restarts. So I think what happens this year on the defensive line is going to be very interesting to see. How does that change with Lou Anarumo? With us having the extra DB and one less linebacker, will that change because we're going smaller personnel? Will that change who we see on the field more often? Right, Tommy Ade, and shout out to Zach Hicks, who does good research, finds some good stuff, and puts it on Twitter. And I saw something where he was talking about Tommy Ade had a couple different tweets about Tamiade and how one of them was talking about how he got put at edge a little more and his effectiveness from that position. Right now, of course, on the inside, he's a little bit smaller, so against the run, he's somebody that's a target for double teams. And so that makes it hard for him to fill that space. But I think if you can find a spot for him to be like on, first downs, right? Running downs, where you still want to have somebody that can rush the passer, throw Tamiade and Kwity Paye as your edge guys, right? On first down, and then on money down, second and third down, when you ideally get yourself in a good position, 2nd and 8 or longer, and then you can let your pass rushers come in and eat, right? Trey Hendrickson, JTT, Latu, boom, and which again would be interesting. Yeah, I almost at this point, because we drafted a guy, I thought those were the options. Were you either get Trey Hendrickson or you draft a guy this year. And because we drafted a guy high, second round, getting Hendrickson seems more like a long shot now than it ever has for me. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. And again, because we'd be so deep, because there's so many guys, I feel like at this point, if you did make that trade, you're going to have to give up somebody. You're giving up somebody.